So in this video, guys, I'm going to be explaining to you why Gnosticism is a doctrine of something that is unsound, and how it doesn't compare to Christianity, Gnosticism, and how it is a deviation from the truth and deviation from true salvation when it comes down to being a person who acts with humility and with good positive action towards each other and has discernment through the Spirit. Now, Gnosticism is a very weird cult. It's very much basically on the front of it an esoteric cult of being obsessed with intellectual ideas around esoteric occult symbolism and all of this type of stuff. You know, there is very much a strong lack of commitment towards anything. There is no strong element of religiosity within modern Gnosticism or anything like this, which is why Gnosticism can often be conflated, and not conflated, but seen as being something very similar within stuff like transhumanism, for example, because there is this concentration of the mind over matter, the mind escaping the body, the mind being the most essential thing in relation to the only thing that they care about, which is this idea of gnosis, and how gnosis can only come about if you are mentally absorbing all these different forms of knowledge and information and concepts that are built within the esoteric traditions of many different cultures throughout the centuries. That is fundamentally what Gnosticism is. It's about, you can only be saved, or you can only achieve salvation if you know about ideas, basically. That is all it is. Now, they're very much an amoral group. Like, Gnosticism is an amoral thing itself. It doesn't believe that the Ten Commandments are relevant. It doesn't believe that that the morality of behavior and communion with others is any way important in relation to salvation or being saved, or in relation to simply being enlightened. They just believe that ideas and this idea of gnosis and attaining gnosis is the only thing that's relevant. Now, what this occurs to be as a representation within society is just a bunch of people who are postmodern spiritualists who, like in a candy store as a child, have a pick and mix selection of what they want to believe and not want to believe, and then change a couple of months later to suit their intellectual fancy and fashion. There's many aspects of sophistry in relation to Gnosticism, because it is information that is learned and understood from the occult and the esoteric that is not very useful. It doesn't actually bring about any form of good positive action into the world, And the problem with this is, of course, you get people who lack commitment and conviction to anything on a level of religiosity, which is all what religiosity is about, is the aspect of intolerance and only tolerating certain moral standards, for example, the Ten Commandments, living by the Ten Commandments. But within Gnosticism, Gnostics don't actually believe that the Ten Commandments are salvific in relation to themselves and God. They just believe that knowing information is salvific, and that is the end of the story. So it becomes this cycle of just learning information, most of it being useless, most of it not breeding anything of positive action into the world. When we're talking about being a person with integrity, with virtue, who upholds honesty as an individual, we can look at Christianity and be like, okay, the Ten Commandments, they lay out a framework and foundation for that fundamental existence as an individual in this world. Gnosticism doesn't at all. It's an amoral system. It doesn't have a morality, it doesn't have a moral compass attached to it. There's nothing there to guide the individual towards something that is good, or to understand what is bad. It doesn't bring about the aspect of discernment, of being able to discern what you are reading and consuming with the Spirit. And that is what is mostly lacking within Gnosticism. Now, that's what you basically get with this. You get a postmodern, you become a postmodern spiritualist, someone who's basically a nihilist, doesn't really believe in anything, but likes to take on loads of ideas and throw them out the next day. And the way this wraps in towards Luciferianism is because Gnosticism is very much tied to transhumanism, and it's tied to the AI revolution in relation to the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Because it's about the mind being the most expansive thing that is most important, and basically that's the same doctrine of Gnosticism, is that all the knowledge that you are able to harbor for yourself is that which will set you free, in a sense. It is that, if you can absorb knowledge as much as possible, and this could just be not knowledge, not wisdom, but just information that is, spiritual and, secret knowledge and all this type of stuff. The stuff that lures people into the esoteric and to secret societies and into occult circles is like, there's secret knowledge that is out there, but you don't know because you limit yourself to religions, or you limit yourself to stuff that restricts certain stuff. And because you restrict yourself from understanding these secret traditions or this secret knowledge, this occult information, then you are not going to be saved, or you're going to be a limited soul. Your soul is not going to, be saved. You're not going to be go through salvation or anything like this. And this is the lure tactic from Gnostics, or the lure tactic from these types of groups, is that they try to bring you in through this idea of temptation, or that there is something that you don't have within you that is outside of you that you need to have, that will bring you enlightenment. But everything is actually within you. Everything is within you already. And this, when we look into this, we look at the aspect, the amoral aspect of this, and we look into the fact that, Gnostics don't believe that Ten Commandments are salvific, that it doesn't really relate to anything of that nature, when Christianity is heavily endorsed upon that. We can see that how this interweaves itself into aspects of Luciferianism, because there's no code of conduct for Gnostics. There's no way of life. It's just harbor knowledge, harbor information, become a jargonite spiritualist or something, become someone who's just so absorbed into information. For what end exactly? And this is the problem. And then we can see that in relation to transhumanism, because of AI, artificial intelligence. It's all mental. It's not physical, but it's a deviation from the physical, and it's a condemnation of the physical, because they're like saying, well, the demiurge is the controller of the physical world is evil, all of this kind of stuff. So we have this broad array of kind of a strange system of belief that is not specifically in relation to something that is of Christian doctrine, something that is of living up to moral standards. Therefore, if you don't have something that has moral standards, then you're going to have these people fall astray to a lot of things. And, a lot of this esoteric information is used to try and validate things of the fleshly nature, things of the world that are worldly, things that are of temptation, things that are of external temptation that inflict upon the spirit, which is from an external outward force. A lot of the Gnostic, New Age, spiritualist stuff is all there so that can validate those temptations if they come about your way, and therefore it validates everything that is possible. And that's also where you get the androgynous aspect of spiritualism, with things like the Baphomet, and how that links into things that you can think of today, which is very bizarre, because it all links in fundamentally to these things. Now, this is also very similar. You can see the Luciferian aspect. You also see the Promethean aspect within Greek culture. Prometheus steals the flame of creation, or the creative will, and this idea of information being that which will enlighten you so that you can create your own reality and be your own creator is also very much similar to this idea of Gnosticism. Now, when we look into the Bible, we actually have a lot of predictions of this stuff. People falling away from the spirit of truth and falling for the spirit of falsehood. And you have a lot of, you have in book 1 of Timothy, where Timothy talks about people falling for fables and mythologies and moving away from sound doctrine. So I'm going to say and tell you some of those verses within the Bible that links to this movement towards Gnostic post-modern spirituality that ridifies of any form of sound doctrine. So Timothy chapter 4 verse 3 to 4 is, "For the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say that their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. Therefore, we must be careful that when we are considering new ideologies, they bear sound doctrine, not mythologies or platitudes that will suit everything and anything that comes your way, any form of temptation, any form of desire, any form of fleshly, worldly desire that one may experience or want to find validity for." Now, within the book of John, it says that you, dear children, and this is John, book 1, verse 4, chapter 4, is, "You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world." Now, everything that Gnosticism represents, or anything of this world that is to validate things of this world instead of the spirit, instead of your relation to God through love, which is of the spirit, everything of this world is basically validated through the mythologies, the fables of Gnosticism. If you understand what I mean here, because if you look into this, if you look into New Age spirituality, everything there is to validate how you feel, validate temptations of the flesh, material desires, and all of these things, when instead Christianity is there to validate the virtues, the immaterial values, the things of virtue, the things of values that come from the spirit, that come from discernment. Gnosticism is against discernment. Gnosticism is anti-discernment, because it's like, well, we will validate everything. We will give you mythologies and forms of symbolism, which is more like cartoons, because they're very contradictory of themselves. Like the symbol of Abraxas is like basically a cartoon, because it's a contradictory accumulation of separate symbols that don't make any relational sense to each other, which is why it's a cartoon. And a lot of things within Gnosticism is cartoonish, because they're not sacred, they're more profane creations of symbolic intent that is being tried and tested for to be told to the individual and told to the consumer of it that it is something that is meaningful and something that is powerful and sacred when it isn't. But I hope that kind of gives you a way of looking at what this stuff is. The Luciferian, Promethean aspect of Gnosticism, how it's a very amoral system of belief. It's very postmodern. It doesn't really have anything in it that affirms what is important in this life, which is to be a good individual when it comes to action, when it comes to being an individual of action, that you are humble, that you are of service to other people, that you are grateful, that you are not selfish, that you follow the 10 Commandments, basically. It's very simple. This is something I've been saying quite recently, is that, Christianity is very simple, which is why people don't like it. Because people want to explore into these things of fantasy when it comes to the esoteric. Things that are not fundamentally real on a large scale, things that are not that will actually ground you as an individual. Christianity actually grounds you as an individual. It grounds you, gives you a set of values to work around, and they are actually commandments that will reap you many good things in your life if you act accordingly in relation to them. If you don't, then you will reap bad things. It's very simple. So hopefully this kind of description, this overview of Gnosticism gives you an idea of why it has these aspects within it. If you enjoyed this video, if you want to kind of comment your opinion down below, please make sure to do so. And of course, if you are interested in one-on-one coaching in relation to procrastination, if you feel like you are spiritually, mentally, physically procrastinating on anything in relation to your mindset, and you want to work on that with me in relation to time mismanagement, bad habits, anything of that nature, make sure to book in a free consultation call with me down below, and we can see how we can work together in the most effective way possible going ahead in the future. So, of course, if you enjoyed this video, do all those things, comment your thoughts. I'm sure there's going to be some very interesting comments on this video, because I'm probably pissing a lot of people off saying this stuff. And of course, share it around, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Have a lovely day.